Sheriff Todd Baxter of Monmouth County, New York. My name is Chris Chichester. I've never committed a crime. You were elected on November 7th, 2017. It's WSXI. I'm going to read the lead in this story, which is a reason I decided on the title for this YouTube, which is accurate. Can you read the title for this YouTube? Todd Baxter wins Monmouth County Sheriff's race, published November 7, 2017. Former Greece Police Chief Todd Baxter was Republican until May, when he switched his allegiances and joined the Democratic Party to run for Monmouth County Sheriff against incumbent Patrick O'Flynn. The switch paid off as Baxter, with 57% of the vote, beat O'Flynn and denied the incumbent sheriff his fifth term. This is why you're a fraud. You believe in nothing. You have no political principles. The only thing that is important, the only thing that is of consequence in your life is power, the pursuit of power, accumulating power, wielding power. If you're going to be a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't matter. Do you understand, you party switching fraud, that there are significant ideological differences between the two major parties? And when an American citizen decides on a major political party, that citizen is animated by beliefs on taxes, on spending, on social issues such as abortion and gay marriage, and other issues that affect the United States of America, such as how to prevent another terrorist attack. Todd Baxter, do you understand the differences ideologically between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party? And I believe the answer is no. I continue with the story. Baxter, a former Rochester police officer, left his post as executive director of the Veterans Outreach Center in order to run. When announcing his candidacy in May, he noted that much of his philosophy wouldn't change, even though his party affiliation would. Again, the total incoherence of you. I, in a previous YouTube that's attached to this email, read your quotes. And it is incoherence. You make no sense whatsoever. I do not understand what you're talking about, you accident of history. And there are more quotes I'm going to read in this story here, where not only are you incoherent, you lie, or you just don't understand that there are significant major differences in the ideas of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And I've seen this in my career in Albany and Washington, D.C. And so have tens of millions of Americans. Tens of millions of Americans know why they decided to join the Democratic Party. And tens of millions of Americans know why they decided to join the Republican Party. And there is hostility on behalf of these Americans for the party that they're not in. Todd K. Baxter. So, this is your quote. This is your incoherence. And this is where you exist in 1984. This quote right here. And I'll attempt to explain why. Quote, I believe in things that cross party lines, Baxter said. If you think about it, safety of the community crosses party lines. Helping young people who might be in positions that aren't very fruitful or helpful for them as they move forward. Alternatives to incarceration. Why are we putting young kids in jail if we don't have to? Those are all things that cross party lines, so my values haven't changed. That makes zero sense. This is total incoherence what you say. I believe in things that cross party lines, right there. There is not one single issue that I'm aware of that crosses party lines in the United States of America, given the polar opposites that are the Democrat and Republican Party on taxes, on spending, on abortion, on gay rights, on any number of things. I'm not aware of a single issue that crosses party lines. Do you understand how politics works in the United States of America? You freak, an accident of history, Todd K. Baxter. Nothing crosses party lines. If you think about it, safety of the community crosses party lines. No, it doesn't. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are nearly at a point of hatred for each other when they talk about, quote, safety of the community, which is the police. And what are you talking about? I'm guessing that you're talking about the police when you're talking about safety of the community. There's significant differences about Republicans and Democrats about policing. Have you heard of stop and frisk, Todd Baxter? Do you think stop and frisk is something that crosses party lines and Republicans and Democrats agree on it? If you think about things across party lines, helping young people who might be in positions that aren't very fruitful, what does that mean? Helping young people that aren't in positions that are very fruitful. Are you talking about minors that commit crimes, Todd Baxter? Are you talking about juvenile delinquents here? Helping young people who might be in positions that aren't very fruitful? Because I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just asking you. You're total incoherence again. And you as sheriff want to help young people who might be in positions that aren't very fruitful? You're not a social worker, Todd K. Baxter. And if violent juveniles commit crimes, your job is to arrest. If they truly, really, truly do commit crimes, is to arrest them. Helping young people who might be in positions that aren't very fruitful. You don't even know what your job as sheriff is. That's not your job. It's to help young people, Todd Baxter. It is astonishing that a sheriff thinks he's a social worker. Alternatives to incarceration. Like what? I haven't had any alternatives to incarceration. When you're doing your party switching skinhead and stooge, to me, it's just forcing me in front of one judge, John P. Lomenzo Jr. in Penfield Town Court, Paul C. Metzer in Penfield Town Court, Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court, and I'm being delivered to jail. Where's my alternative to incarceration? I have an alternative to incarceration right now. It's called freedom. I had been in jail 6 times, and 6 times the prosecutor hasn't talked in court. 6 times. Where's my alternatives to incarceration? Why are we putting young kids in jail if we don't have to? Again, what does that mean? Why are we putting young kids in jail if we don't have to? I have no idea what that means. When I say I don't know what you're talking about, I don't. You need to have facts and circumstances. If there is a teenager, I don't call a child or a minor a kid. If there is a child or a minor, as you say, that is in jail, well, what are the facts and circumstances? Is this child or minor arrested by the fanatical cops? Why are we putting young kids in jail if we don't have to? I don't know what that means, if we don't have to. Are you talking about the courts in Monroe County? Are you talking about fanatical, corrupt judges like Paul C. Metzer, John P. Lomenzo Jr., and Alex Renzi? Is there something called family court that handles these cases? So this is where you say about crossing party lines, helping young people crosses party lines, alternatives to incarceration crosses party lines, putting young kids in jail crosses party lines. And then you say, those are all the things that cross party lines, so my values haven't changed. I have no idea what you're talking about. Total incoherence from you right here, Todd Baxter. Then you have the story from WSXI continues. Quote, one of the key issues that Baxter will face right away is the opioid epidemic in the region. Baxter criticized O'Flynn and county government for waiting until September to release the number of deaths that occurred in 2016 that were related to opioids. The numbers from the Monroe County Medical Examiner's Office show that Monroe County had 169 opioid-related deaths in 2016, up from 69 in 2015. So, if a drug user uses drugs such as opioids and that drug user dies, then that is a public health issue. Your job as the sheriff of Monroe County is to arrest individuals in possession of drugs. You're not a drug counselor. You're not a therapist that's supposed to help someone that's in the throes of addiction. That's not your job as sheriff. This is why you're a buffoon, a stooge, and a halfwit. If there is an opioid crisis, and when I hear that phrase, I am hard-pressed to understand exactly what it means. Because anybody who understands heroin and New York City in the 1970s, well, wasn't New York City in the throes of an opioid crisis 50 plus years ago? I mean, did the opioid crisis just arrive in 2010 or 2015 or thereabouts? This is where a phrase enters the lexicon of America, and then it's used over and over. And I don't know what it means. I still don't know what the opioid crisis means, because then that's been around, if in fact it's the way I understand it, pardon me, since the 1970s. Panic in Needle Park. There was a time in New York City where there were needles all over the streets. Especially, I remember seeing this occasionally in Brooklyn when my family would visit. So my mother and father from Brooklyn. Have you heard, Todd, of crack and what it did to the United States of America in the 1980s? Was that an opioid crisis? You know what, Todd? In the 1980s, crack was not for the police to be drug rehabilitation counselors and therapists. You're not a drug rehabilitation counselor and therapist, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. So shut up about drugs and arrest individuals that possess and use drugs. And then you say here, quote, about your opponent. Quote, quite clearly, the sheriff stated that he jumped into the opioid epidemic with both feet. We had 169 deaths last year, folks. That's not both feet. It is failure. 169 deaths is failure? You're blaming your predecessor, Patrick O'Flynn, for opioid death? You're blaming deaths of drug users on him? That's immoral. I'm astonished that he didn't use this against you. If people use drugs, if citizens use drugs, and that citizen dies, and that's the accountability of the citizen. That's the choice the citizen made. It has nothing to do with your predecessor sheriff or any elected official. A citizen that uses drugs and that citizen dies, that's personal responsibility. You just say anything. Sheriff's race became contentious. I continue. After debate held in late October, in the week leading up to Election Day, a flyer targeting Baxter in support of President Donald Trump was being mailed to Democrats, urging voters to write in Gary Pudup's name on the ballot and visit the website of Rochester for All, political action committee started by former mayoral candidate Rachel Barnard. Pudup and Barnard have said they aren't responsible for flyers and have filed complaints with the New York State Board of Elections, United States Postal Inspector. I'm going to read this sentence again. Why call you a fraud? Why you'll say anything? Why you have no political principles whatsoever? Why you're intellectually and morally bankrupt? All you believe in is power. This is the key sentence here. A flyer targeting Baxter and his support of President Donald Trump. You're a Democrat. I do not know a single Democrat that voted for Donald J. Trump in 2016 or 2020. All you believe in is power. You're a Democrat in Monroe County, and you voted for Donald Trump. Todd Baxter wins Monroe County Sheriff's race. You will say anything. Todd Baxter. Do you know that? What are the things that cross party lines? Two. There are no things that cross party lines. Now, you buffoon stooge and a half. What? This is you. Your predecessor sheriff was in civilian clothes. Why do you have those 4 stars on your collar? Did you decide to put those 4 stars on your collar? I'm going to write to you about this, not a rhetorical question, because I think you did. I did not see your predecessor wearing 4 stars on his collar. Did you invent and design your own uniform? I'm trying not to laugh, because I think that you thought that 4 stars on your collar projects power, and you decided to put those 4 stars on your collar. I think Douglas MacArthur designed his own uniform. Did you get your inspiration from Douglas MacArthur, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter? And you got your 2 pens there on your uniform, too. So that's really odd. I don't get that at all. Why are employees at Wegmans? Tell your employees to stay away from this private business, every private business, and do their jobs out on the roads. I see your employees constantly, even now, when I'm not on my former residence in Penfield, in places where they never should be. On East Main Street, when I walk down East Main Street, I go to the only pizza place I could find, and it's one of the problems I have in Rochester because being from Long Island and my mother and father being from Queens and Brooklyn, there's pizza places everywhere. I was hard-pressed to find a pizza place in my new residence, but I did find one. And I will walk past Canandaigua National Bank, which is my bank, and I think it's called Aqueduct Street. And then to the left is the New York State Supreme Court complex where Alex Renzi lives there alone from me, Sandra Dorley. So the reason why I'm holding this up is that I cross over the Genesee River on East Main Street. I walk past my bank, Canandaigua National Bank, and I think it's called Aqueduct Street, but I could be wrong. But that street to the left goes up toward the Justice Center, I think it's called. Every day I see a Monroe County Sheriff's Office vehicle there. I'm going to take a photograph of this vehicle to show you. And I want to say this first before I took the photograph. And the reason why I didn't take the photograph the last time is because I have to be careful. Because I don't want your psychopaths putting their sirens on and driving over to me when I'm taking photographs of them, which I'm hoping will happen because now that I've said that I'm going to do this on YouTube, I would hope that they would do that so I can take pictures of them being right next to me. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk down East Main Street in the next 7 days like I do every day. And on one of those days, I'm going to see your vehicle. I think it's on called Aqueduct Street, sitting there in his vehicle doing nothing, just like this one. This employee would sit in a vehicle alongside Wegmans doing nothing. And one day, I was walking to Gold's Gym in Fairport, which I would go to every day, and I left the sidewalk of Penfield Road. I walked toward Wegmans, and your vehicle started coming right toward me. And I'm thinking, please drive right toward me. This is going to be the money shot for me. And your vehicle drove right in front of me, and I took out the phone. That's why I have this money shot. I'm going to get another money shot of your employee in his Monroe County Sheriff's Office vehicle. I believe it's called Aqueduct Street. I'm not confident that's the name, but the name really is relevant. I'm going to get a photograph of your employee in his Monroe County Sheriff's Office vehicle sitting there on this street next to East Main Street doing nothing. And I'm going to send it to you. Do you know your employees sit in their vehicles doing nothing, Todd Baxter? A warrant for my arrest by $67,000 Shannon Meyer for walking through a parking lot next to where I used to live. Do you see my two neighbors? Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, Monroe County. I am the only citizen of 36,000 in Penfield, New York, to be arrested for walking through his parking lot. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. I am the only citizen of 700,000 in Monroe County to be arrested for walking through his parking lot. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. I am the only citizen of 17.9 million in the state of New York to be arrested for walking through his parking lot. Where's my 14th Amendment right to equal protection laws, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter? Fire $67,000 Shannon Meyer. What's in that building next to that parking lot, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter? I moved to my residence at 26 Sanders Farm Drive in 2012. My ex-girlfriend, Laura from Webster, she's hired at the Penfield Public Library. So that's when I began to walk through that parking lot. 4,000 times. I'd see Dr. Gloria Nichols outside at 2033 Penfield Road. She was so nice and friendly. And when it came time to go to the dentist, I went to Dr. Nichols. She's still my dentist. Dr. Nichols moves her practice down Penfield Road and moved Lady Kumar and A-Rod Shah. This is the destruction of my life before these two. One day I walked through the parking lot coming back from Gold's Gym and hear screaming from behind me. I've never heard a man scream like this in A-Rod Shah. We have a confrontation. I tell him to fuck off, and I give him the official finger of Brooklyn, New York, which I'm giving to you, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, right now. And he goes to the sheriff's office. I've explained this in detail. I won't anymore in this YouTube. And Shannon Meyer writes a warrant for my arrest for walking through this parking lot. Did Shannon Meyer, who you will not fire, write a warrant for the arrest for these two citizens walk through this parking lot? If it's a crime for me to walk through this parking lot, which is the accusatory instrument, do you want the address for my neighbors right here? How about Penfield High School students? How about the elderly woman who's not in this photograph who lives across from me? How about my excellent friend Adam who lived across from me? What about my excellent friend Adam's mother and father who walked through this parking lot? There's a parade of people who walk through this parking lot every day, and I'm the only one with an arrest warrant. I'm the only one arrested when you concocted the arrest for me. It's not a crime for me to walk outside, stand right here, say nobody owns that land, and walk back on my residence. Do you know that Shannon Meyer concocted a crime for me using a civilian named Steve Desert and Brock Tree in Lawn Care, when she told him ride your tractor by his residence, get him to come out of the house, and if he does, we're going to be there and arrest him. That's not a crime, Todd Baxter. Just like I'm not committing harassment second sitting in the back seat of Andrew Reality's police vehicle. Fire $67,000 Shannon Meyer. I absolutely despise and detest this cop from hell with every fiber of my being. How do you possibly employ her? Call me into her office. I'll say what I just said here on this YouTube to her, so she can have a fair hearing. Do you have any type of disciplinary process where your sheriff office employees are provided with a hearing to explain themselves? Because if she's asked, how come you wrote a warrant for the arrest of Christopher Chach's 26 Sanders Farm Drive, but not anybody else, such as his neighbors? And he showed us evidence of other people walking through the parking lot. And what does she say? She deserves a right to defend herself. How is this possibly explained and defended by her? I would love to see it. And this is where there's no accountability for her, for you. She doesn't have to explain herself, and you sure as hell don't have to explain yourself to anyone. The Department of Justice, you think that you don't have any type of control over you where you're accountable. You are absolutely, completely corrupt, Todd Baxter, because you employ $67,000 cop from hell, Shannon Meyer, who you won't fire. I'm going to hold this up so you can see it. What's that called? That's called a surveillance device. Did you, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, expend taxpayer dollars from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to buy this and fix this on this building, or is this private technology? What's the answer? What's the answer to that question? This again specifically is precisely why you're corrupt. I'm demanding, if that camera is your property of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, or did you use the private technology? Either way, it's an abomination what you did to me. And what you did to me is smash me into a million little pieces. So, but I don't have any more because of my illegal eviction. You have things in your home that you cherish. I ran this 5K in Fairport. Runners, I'm going to show you a picture of me after a race, really obsess about their shoes, especially when they're going to run a race. And I looked all over for these Nike shoes. And when I finally found them, I wore them. I thought, oh, these feel terrific. I really never felt racing shoes like these shoes. Well, that's me wearing those shoes. I don't have that outfit. I don't have those shorts. I don't have that number. I used to take my numbers off and put my numbers up on a wall to remind myself to run a better race and do the best that I could. I don't have that number. I don't have that outfit. I don't have those shoes that I love. This is my illegal eviction by my landlords from hell, Giuseppe Spano and Antonino Spano, who you will not arrest when I write the criminal complaint. I own nothing. I have nothing, including those shoes, those shorts, that light blue shirt, that number. I have nothing. And the reason why I have nothing, what led to me having nothing, began with $67,000 cop from hell, Shannon Meyer. Your $91,000 employee, Sheriff Todd Baxter, Lee LaRoque, entered my residence with a fake, phony, fraudulent document typed by $28,000 Paul C. Metz from Penfield Town Court. That's not a search warrant. And she exited with my Acer Chromebook. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, where's my Acer Chromebook? Ask $91,000 Lee LaRoque. And what I'm going to hear from you is nothing. This specifically, precisely is why you're corrupt. Your employee, Lee LaRoque, took my Chromebook out of my residence, but there's no probable cause for her to take my Chromebook out of my residence. I'm demanding where it is. I will never receive my Chromebook back. And what did you do with my Chromebook? Did you examine the hard drive? Did you read my emails? Did you go to the search history? What did you do with it? What's the reason to have my Chromebook? This specifically, precisely is why you're corrupt about my personal property, the invasion of my privacy, the obliteration of my life and character by $91,000 Lee LaRoque. Two people decide to get into a residence. It's that easy? What do you think about what I'm saying to you? You skinhead stooge and party switcher, Todd Baxter? About your employee, $91,000 Lee LaRoque. I have demanded, using the FOIL, the disciplinary process, which says right here, the internal disciplinary process or documentation for employees at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office that Monroe County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter has disciplined, reprimanded, terminated from employment at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. It's right here, over and over and over. Look at that. You've refused to comply with every single one. You and Sandy Fedora. Should Lee LaRoque be disciplined or reprimanded for being in my residence with a document that's not a search warrant typed by $28,000 Paul C. Metzler and then exiting with my Chromebook? The answer is that she should be terminated from employment. You're not going to do anything. Do you know why, Todd K. Baxter, Sheriff of Monroe County? Because you're corrupt. That's why. What would you, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, think if Zachary Baxter went to a gym and Zachary Baxter is on a bench press and up walks to him a man named Jermaine L. Benman? And Jermaine L. Benman says to Zachary Baxter this, which means he's not even talking. He's just moving him off the sheet. Zachary Baxter says, "I'll be 30 seconds." And Jermaine Benman stands over Zachary Baxter, and then Jermaine Benman punches down violently, and the head of Zachary Baxter snaps back. Zachary Baxter is just violently attacked by Jermaine Benman. Who did Zachary Baxter harass? Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. And then a witness calls $79,000 Andrew Alley, and then Zachary Baxter goes out to the car, and Andrew Alley tells Zachary Baxter to wait in the back seat of his vehicle. Who is Zachary Baxter harassed to this point? Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. Then Andrew Alley tells Jermaine Benman 7 words to say to Zachary Baxter, and those are, "I want to press charges against you." And then Jermaine Benman walks around the side of the vehicle and says those 7 words to Zachary Baxter. And that's how Zachary Baxter is charged with harassment second. And that's how Zachary Baxter is going to be in Monroe County Jail. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, given what I just told you, who did Zachary Baxter harass? Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. Kevin Baxter lives at 26 Sanders Farm Drive, and he's walked through a parking lot one day when Nayraj Shah begins to scream at him. And then one day, Steve Desmond of Broccolo Tree and Lawn Care rides his tractor by the residence of Kevin Baxter. Kevin Baxter just exits the residence, tells Steve Desmond nobody owns the land, and walks back into his residence. What crime did Kevin Baxter commit in simply walking outside and telling Steve Desmond of Broccolo Tree and Lawn Care nobody owns that land? Because what happens is that 30 minutes later, as Kevin Baxter sits on his couch, Shannon Meyer, this repulsive hack, runs into the backyard of Kevin Baxter and falls down on her face. And there's a pounding on the front door of Kevin Baxter. Kevin Baxter answers the door and he walks out on his front lawn, and he's surrounded by 6 employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. And the handcuffs go on. And he's charged with criminal contempt second. What crime did Kevin Baxter commit? And then Kevin Baxter that night is driven to Monroe County Jail, where he's handcuffed inside the jail cell, where he can't reach the urinal. And Kevin Baxter urinates on himself. And then as he's sitting in his own urine, a Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee approaches Kevin Baxter with his phone in his hand and a gruesome smile, and he says, "I want to show you something." And to Kevin Baxter, he shows on his phone the video image of Kevin Baxter being outside and telling Steve Desmond, Broccolo Tree and Lawn Care, nobody owns the land next to the residence. Is Kevin Baxter going to conclude that he's on a surveillance device purchased or used by the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? Todd K. Baxter? If what happened to your sons, Zachary Baxter and Kevin Baxter, all the facts and circumstances are the same, which I just explained to you from me with harassment second, criminal second, your wife, Mary Baxter, would be in a rage. I had to tell all this to my mother and father, which is the most difficult conversations of my life. And this is because of $67,000 Shannon Meyer, $79,000 Andrew Alley. Shannon Meyer should absolutely be fired. Andrew Alley should. There was a point where I believed that he should, but he has subsequently helped me. I don't have vengeance in the heart for Andrew. I just don't. And I don't have vengeance in the heart for anybody. What I'm in the pursuit of is justice. Justice is the firing of Shannon Meyer. She's absolutely sickening, repulsive, and disgusting. The cop from hell is Shannon Meyer. And how long has she been at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? Because it's $67,000. She's not on a payroll. I think your entry salary is $41,000, and I could be wrong about that. But that's a junior sheriff office employee. Don't you have any professional development or any type of program that can assist your Monroe County Sheriff Office employees with the highest professional standards is to understand that there is a difference between innocent and guilt, and to use the judgment that is defined by morality and decency. She is dead set on destroying me and arresting me for walking through a parking lot to $67,000 cop from hell. Call me into your office with $67,000 Shannon Meyer so I could talk to her right in front of you. This is called accountability. I'm not just saying this to say this. There are times where I will mock you and ridicule you in certain line. That's not one of those times. Call the $67,000 Shannon Meyer to your office. I'll come to your office, and then I can ask her questions about what she did for me. And then this is called a fair hearing. And then if you decide to fire her, at least she had an opportunity to defend herself. Because I will ask her, why did you write a warrant for my arrest for walking through this parking lot I've walked through 4,000 times, but not anybody else walking through Penfield, New York, or Monroe County, or New York? Why am I the only citizen to be subject to a warrant for arrest for walking through this parking lot? And you won't do this at all. I know what I just said sounds ridiculous and absurd, because what you've done to me is ridiculous and absurd. So since I'm telling you to call this hack, this $67,000 lying or degenerate, Shannon Meyer, into your office where I can ask her questions, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you can't do it, then how about $131,000 Corey Brown? Tell Corey Brown to call me, and then I'll come to the sheriff's office so I can provide this Shannon Meyer with a fair hearing before you fire her. Will you fire Shannon Meyer, Todd Baxter? And the answer is no. Do you know why? You don't. I'll tell you why. Because you're corrupt. Conviction Integrity Unit. What does this thing do? Does a prosecutor talk in court? The reason why you need a Conviction Integrity Unit, District Attorney Sandra Dorley, is because you have prosecutors who silence. When Kyle Steinbach still worked at the District Attorney's office, I was emailing him and telling him, disclose the names of my prosecutors for me, and he refused. So I contacted your District Attorney's office for Kyle Steinbach, your former employee who was the chief of the local courts, and he refused to disclose the names of my prosecutors with silence. And then I'm using the Freedom of Information Law upon you for 18 months to force you to disclose the names of my prosecutors with silence. You're still refusing. This specifically, precisely, is why you're corrupt, Sandra Dorley. You will never know you're corrupt. I just cited two employees to you, Sandra Dorley and Todd Baxter, as evidence for why you're corrupt. Kyle Steinbach refuses to disclose the names of my prosecutors with silence, and Shannon Meyer writes a warrant for my arrest to obliterate my 14th Amendment right to equal protection laws and walk through a parking lot I've walked through 4,000 times. So, people love their dogs with a heart and soul. I will go back to Lollipop Farm Humane Society because my little guy who was with me for 8 years died. You showed up to my arrest, man, my dog knocked the door on, and I'll talk about that again because it really cuts to the core of me. It is extremely difficult for me to talk about you showing up to my residence to demand my dog. I would like to go back to Lollipop Farm and adopt a dog. And when I went with my ex-girlfriend Laura in 2012, one of the questions we were asked at Lollipop was, have you ever been arrested? And I said, no. I was 47 years old. What do you think my answer is going to be when I'm asked the same question again? If I went back to Lollipop Farm Humane Society and I had to answer that same question, I would not be allowed to adopt a dog and give a dog a home nobody wants. I want to go back to where I had such a terrific experience with these saints at Lollipop. Because every dog deserves a home. People love their dogs with their heart and soul. I'm nothing special. I have nothing but contempt, in fact, for people who claim they love their dogs and expect praise for it. It's ordinary, normal to love your dog. You're supposed to love your dog. I would like to adopt another dog, and I will not be able to do it because when I'm asked the question, have you ever been arrested? I'll have to say yes. And it won't matter what the facts and circumstances are for me being an innocent man. Sheriff Todd Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Dorley. My name is Chris Chichester. I've never committed a crime.